Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. This time we are looking at Dazzler X Song Issue 1. This is a one-shot written by Magdalene Visaggio, art by Laura Braga, color artist Rochelle Rosenberg, letterer was VC's Joe Sabino, cover artist Elizabeth Tork, and Ian Herring. There is an alternate cover by Bill Sienkiewicz, Mike Keown, and Rachel Rosenberg. The editor-in-chief on this one was C.B. Cebulski, but the X-Men group editor is Jordan D. White. Now, after the X-Men Red Annual 1 nonsense, I was real hesitant to pick this up, but I got it at a big discount thanks to talking to the comic shop owner who said this was a pretty good issue. And I do like Dazzler. I think she's a very underrated character. So at $3.99, I know you're wondering, and I was too, is this worth picking up? Well, let's take a look at the plot. We get these two girls that are going out to a concert. Then we see some guy with scales on his arms getting ready, and they go to a concert at the Hologram tonight starring Lightbringer, and we see a bunch of different types of people, a lot of obviously humanoid types that are either mutants or Inhumans. Well, then things do not go as planned, and we have mutants saying that they're opposed to Inhumans being there, and it's a very simplistic story. There's a gang of mutants that do not like Inhumans that are showing up, and there's sort of this militant pastiche for alt-righters, and Dazzler will have none of it, even though she's a mutant. She doesn't believe in the solidarity they preach, and she tells them that concerts are for everyone. Notice they don't reference normal humans going there. It's always mutants and Inhumans, so those people are apparently excluded. It's only for the chosen mutants and Inhumans, not the normies. Well, there's a couple times where this is about to go into a fight, and Dazzler breaks it up, and she does the one-hit punch on the guy, and even though she's like a 90-pound girl, she punches him, and he like suddenly gives up. There's a lot of problems with this book. It's actually one of Magdalene Visaggio's better books from the few of hers that I've read, and the art is pretty good. At least it's passable. I think it's more indie than Prime Time, but at least Dazzler looks like a woman. She looks attractive, and there's that, I guess. For a one-shot, it is a pretty well self-contained story. They don't address Dazzler's drug problem. They talk about her former alliances with, like, Excalibur. Colossus does show up, and they do reference that she was an X-Man, but it's not really gone into that much. And for some reason, nobody seems to recognize her as being Dazzler, despite the fact that her tube top does have the same symbol on it. The mutants refer to the Inhumans as Gene Reject, which is a spin on the old insult toward mutants, which was Gene Joe. So I don't know why they would embrace that. I guess it's like the N-word for mutants that they're taking it back. But there is a lot of self-validation in here. There is some really out-of-character dialogue from Dazzler. She's way too confrontational in this. She's always been more reserved. One of those people that's kind of shy until she gets out on stage, and that's kind of where she really shines. There's a 8-year-old kid that never talks like an 8-year-old kid, or any kid I've ever talked with, so he's super woke. The alt-righter mutants is kind of weird. I don't know where that came from. The jokes are pretty terrible. The main villain, who's this leader of these mutants, he's of course a white man. You've got a lot of really, really bizarre empowerment storylines here. I just don't understand what was happening. Dazzler was more of a reluctant hero. This is very out of character. This is a Gem in the Hologram story, and she's got a little purse puppy friend who's in the band, of course, but this is pretty mediocre. It's okay. It's way heavy-handed on the social messaging, and I could see why this book took a little while to come out. It's at best a $2 tepid story. It's not worth $4. It wasn't quite as heavy-handed on the politics as I expected, but it was still incredibly heavy-handed. And much like I said with X-Men Red, they are really going in a heavy social way with the messaging in the books. So mutants and Inhumans are really designated to be some form of minority, whether it's gays or transgenders or somebody's skin color. They're really pushing that really hard in these, and this is no exception. The overt messaging is very painful to the point where I would call this one as another social justice chick track, and I mean that in the way that I would not have picked this up if I knew how heavy-handed it was. It's just blatant propaganda, and I would avoid this. This was not worth $4. It's a definite improvement for Megs Visaggio's work. I think she's got some potential if she would tone down the social messaging and the heavy-handedness of that, because this still has that almost religious level of propaganda to it. It's more subtle than usual, but it's still not very subtle. So I would say this is a miss. I'm not interested in reading propaganda or getting pamphlets and paying for them. So I think the X-Men line has been pretty terrible from what I've seen, and this may be one of the better ones, but comparing it to a crappier book isn't helpful because this is still fairly bad. I won't waste my money on this. This is a waste of time. So that's just my take on it. Thanks as always for listening. If you liked the video, be sure and hit like, consider subscribing, and we hope to see you on the next one.